Good day and welcome to Predators Proclivity, where we look at data from the season for the NHL Nashville Predators and make comments upon it. I am your ailing host, Preston Proctor. I'm your host, Preston Proctor. I've got some bug. I'm not sure. I think I sound really weird now that I'm listening to myself on the podcast. Excuse me. I'll try to keep that to a minimum. Happy Veterans Day. Thanks to all the veterans out there for your service. My older brother, my dad, both in the Navy. My dad served in the Korean War. My two brother-in-laws both were in the Air Force. I think all of my uncles, most of my uncles served in the Navy. So of course I wanted to go in the Air Force. Didn't get into the academy though, so that was my first choice. They waived as much as they could, but between my really bad vision and the fact that I was a geek and really didn't have a lot of upper body strength, has kind of ruled me out there. Interesting, I guess, happy Veterans Day, but didn't apply to Annapolis, but Annapolis invited me to go to school there and even waived the vision requirement. But I could see myself, I'd be flying tankers. I wanted to fly jets. Who doesn't want to fly jets? I wanted to fly F-15s, not F-14s. Yeah, I think I had that choice. Anyway, happy Veterans Day. Thanks again to all of you who serve and have served. All right, so this is the Predators broadcast. Last Saturday, just a quick recap. Saturday, the Preds did win at home over Utah, 4-0. The first period, Forsberg got an early power play goal, and Marchessault got a power play goal as well. The second and third periods, the Preds scored one goal each. No scoring anywhere for Utah. Forsberg got an unassisted in the second, and Nyquist, I think he's the empty net king. I think most of his goals turn out to be empty nets, which is why his shooting percentage is so good. It's got to be something like that. But, yeah, that also makes me 4-0 on the team whose jersey I wear winning the game. So I'm 4-0 this season. The Preds are up to 12 power play goals for 5 for the opposition. I've really been getting my special teams spreadsheet in order, and then I realized I needed to break it out by home and away. But it's coming along. I've got a little bit of insight coming later. So anyway, that was Saturday night. The Preds won. Yay. I was really concerned about that one because last year the Arizona club seemed to have the Preds number. And last Saturday, it was the other way around. Very good. So that was Saturday. It is Monday, November 11th, and tonight's opponent. Tonight, the Predators are on the road in Colorado to take on the Avalanche. The Avalanche are 7-8-0, 4-5-0 at home. They are one of 7 teams that do not have an overtime loss. In fact, they've only had one overtime game. Obviously, that was a win against Anaheim, 4-3. Colorado is 5th in the Central Division with 14 points, winning the tie with St. Louis on regulation wins, 6-5. And all of that is pretty much, except the points, pretty much the same situation that it was back in back when we played them previously. They were 5th, tied with St. Louis, winning the tie. I think that time the Preds were in 7th. So something has changed. The Colorado has been very streaky. They lost their first 4, then won 5, then lost 3. And in the last 3 games, they've been alternating wins and a loss, and hopefully that continues with a loss tonight, and that would be 4 games alternating win and loss. They are 2-4 against the Eastern Conference, which is irrelevant tonight, but hey, there you go. And they are 5-4 against the West, 1-3 against Central Division teams, which both Colorado and Nashville are. The goalies have roughly split duties, with Georgiev getting the last 2 games and Anunin the 2 before that. So Georgiev is 2-5, Anunin is 5-2. He's my guess for the goaltender tonight. Kaapo Kähkönen has gotten 1 start. They called him up to put him in to lose. So he's got a loss, but Georgiev and Anunin, yeah, are the ones that are playing mostly. Okay, roster update. We got an injury update for Colorado. Left wing Jonathan Drouin is on injured reserve, and he's day-to-day. And center Ross Colton is on injured reserve with a broken foot. That's significant because he is tied for the most goals on the team. So they will miss him. Kind of funny. I had to look this up to make sure I got it right. But Colorado has a center named Ivan. Even the commentators the other night commented on that. He was sent down, and now he's been called up along with a couple of other centers, Nikita Prishapov and TJ Tynan. So not sure who would be in the lineup tonight, but they've called up a few more people to stand in for the loss of Ross Colton. The team stat leaders, people to watch out for. Right wing Mikko Rantanen leads in goals with 8, tied with Ross Colton, who we will not be seeing. Rantanen also leads the team in points with 13. Defenseman Nathan MacKinnon leads the team in assists with 22, points with 29, and shots with 59. Colton leads the team in shooting percentage at 21%, 8 on 37 in 10 games. But since he's out, second is left wing Joel Kiviranta, who's at 20%, 4 on 20 shots in 15 games. Left wing Arturi Lehkonen leads in time on ice with 24-34. He also leads in plus minus at 3 with 24 minutes time on ice. Leads the team in time on ice and leads in plus minus. That's pretty good. He is the only player for the team that is above 0, similar to the Preds, only having 1 player above 0. The most unlucky player is center Casey Middlestat, who is last in plus minus at -9 in 15 games. And center Matt Steinberg still leads the team in penalty minutes after racking up 17 in 1 game. And he didn't even have to play 2 games, and he still kept the penalty lead. Tonight is Colorado's 16th game of the year. Last year, the Colorado Avalanche, oh boy, were 11-5 overall. They won 6 games straight to start their season last year. Their 16th game last season was a 6-3 win at Dallas. This year, not doing so well. They are 7-8 overall heading into the 16th game. Tonight is also their 10th game at home. Last year, they were 8-2 in 10 games. Their 10th home game was a 4-1 win over Tampa Bay. The win over Tampa Bay was the end of a 4-game winning streak that was started after losing in Nashville, 3-4. Coming into the Nashville game, they had also won the 3 leading up to it. So they, out of an 8-game streak, their only loss was to Nashville in Nashville. So, way to go, Preds. This year they are 4-5-0 at home, so a little behind last year. Tonight's game is the second of a 4-game homestand for them. They are 1-0, having beaten Carolina 6-4. Next up after Nashville are the LA Kings and Washington. The Nashville Predators. Oh, yes. With the win Saturday, the Preds are now 5-9-1. 5 big wins. They haven't played that much on the road. 1-3-1 on the road. The Preds are 8th in the Central Division, as I say, because there isn't a 9th team. With 11 points, they are 2 points behind Chicago. However, with that win, the Preds have leapt into the penultimate position, 1 point ahead of Montreal. Look out, Anaheim, Columbus, Philadelphia, and San Jose. They all have 12 points. Woohoo! Gonna rocket up this league. A couple wins, and they probably will. Yeah, not that hard. With all these teams down here at 12 or less points. The Preds are 2-4-1 against the Eastern Conference, 3-5 versus the West, but they are 3-1 against the Central. That ties them for the best record in the Central Division against the Central Division with Dallas. And in first is Winnipeg. I think they've only lost 1 game this year. They are 6-0-0. 6-0-0 against the Central Division. Yeah, they are 14-1. 14-1. They also don't have any overtime losses. They've only lost 1. But this isn't about the Jets. Tonight's game is the first game of a 5-game road trip for the Preds. They head to Edmonton on Thursday, then Calgary on Friday. Be interesting to see who's in goal on those 2 games, Calgary and Edmonton. Yeah, both of those teams are stuck at 17 points. Calgary, 17 and 15. Calgary's at 17. Edmonton's at 15. Edmonton 7-7-1. Calgary 7-5-3. I'll do a podcast about. I might do those 2 games together. We'll have to see how this week goes. And they got so they play Edmonton on Thursday, Calgary on Friday, and then Sunday in Vancouver. So in 4 days they're playing the 3 Pacific Canadian teams. And then they get a couple days off to cross the border and play in Seattle. And they play Seattle next Wednesday. And that's the end of that 5-game road trip. Should be a 5-game winning streak for the Preds, a 6-game winning streak for the Preds at that point, right? All right. Told you once they get their act together, it's going to be amazing. Tonight is the Preds' 16th game of the year. Last season, they were 6-10 in their first 16 games. Their 16th game was a 4-2 home win versus Chicago. They were 6-10 last year. They're 5-9-1 so far this year. Winning tonight, and it'll be roughly about the same, 1 point more. Tonight is the Preds' 6th away game. Last season, they were 2-4 in the first 6 road games. The 6th game was a 5-2 win versus Edmonton. This season, they are 1-3-1. So last year, 2-4, 1-3-1. A little too similar. Get that win tonight. They'll be 6-9-1. They were 6-10 last year. They'll be 2-3-1. They were 2-4. Roughly the same record, but 1 point more. Injury update. Center Tommy Novak is still day-to-day. And center Colton Sissons has come off injured reserve, and he played on Saturday versus Utah, and I think he had like 15 minutes. So that's pretty good. Transactions. Defenseman Dante Fabro was placed on waivers and was picked up yesterday by Columbus. That's $2.5 million back to the cap for Nashville. I don't know. There's not he's not one of the favored defensemen with the fans or with announcers, I think. But I don't know. At $2.5 million, I think he should play better. I guess I was reading one article. I guess he was a healthy scratch a lot last season, and he's kind of fallen down in the ranks. I think Mark Delgazzo was subbing in for him. So defenseman Dante Fabro, no longer a Pred. Now he's a Blue Jacket. Nah, I'll keep my comments to myself. Not usually. Okay, the stat leaders for the Predators. Of course, we've got left wing Philip Forsberg, who leads the team in goals, 8 points, 13. And he's second in number of shots and probably wins the award for the best mustache. I didn't really see that in the stats, but he's second in shots with 60. Defenseman Roman Josi leads the team in assists, 9 shots, 61, time on ice, 25, 23. If it weren't for Josi and Forsberg, we'd have no luck at all. Gloom, despair. Wrong show. Center Juuso Parssinen leads the team in shooting percentage, 40%, 2 goals on 5 shots. He's only played 7 games. The leader with 15 games, who's second in shooting percentage, is Mr. Empty Net, center Gustav Nyquist, 5 goals on 17 shots for a 29.4%. Go Gustav. Defenseman Mark Delgazzo leads the team in plus minus, because he hasn't played that much, at 1. But he's positive. He's above 0. You got to like that. We've got 3 players at 0. Right wing Luke Evangelista. Left wing Zachary Leroux. Zachary Leroux. Center Philip Tomasino. And then at the bottom, Josi just wants to be everywhere in the stats, I guess. So he's at the bottom with minus 11, which, given his time on ice, the fact that some of the teams we play, that their time on ice leaders at plus or minus, that's really something. Especially most of the teams that we play haven't got the greatest of records. Given where the Preds are, they're better than the Preds. But to have a high time on ice and not have a plus minus, that's you're just on the ice so much, right? That you're playing all the special teams, shorthanded, the penalty kills and whatnot. So at the bottom at minus 11, we've got Josi, right wing Michael McCarron, and back in the lineup, center Colton Sissons. McCarron also now leads the team in penalty minutes, 23, taking over from Luke Shen. And so now the Preds stats on the road. So what can we expect when the Preds go on the road? Well, they're going on the road for 5 games, and we're going to see a lot of it. They are currently 1-3-1, so they've only played 5 road games, and they've got 5 in this next road trip. So 10 games, and we're going to start to have stats that might look more real. Looking at things overall by the number of periods, that stuff is really starting to look. It really kind of does have some statistical relevance. I'd like to see him play more games on the road, and then it'll start to gel and start to look more real. But they are 1-3-1 on the road. They lost their last road game. They lost their last 2, but the last one was Thursday in that 2-6 fiasco down in Florida. They played, decently against Washington the previous night, and then I don't know. That was strange. In that game, as far as stats go, Florida scored 2 weird goals in the first. I'm not tracking weird goals. That's not one of the things I've got. I don't intend to do that. But those were 2 kind of weird goals. And in that game, Wedgwood was in goal, so it wasn't Saros. Saros was in goal against Washington, which I think was the wrong order of play in that particular case. But two weird goals. They got three in the second period. They got one power play goal, and then Stamkos got a power play goal, and then they got another goal. That was the second period. And then they got it in the third period. They got a power play goal about midway through the third, with Parsonen getting a goal less than 30 seconds later. Something I call a just after goal. Not sure it's going to catch on calling it that, but that's what I call it, and I'm tracking that too. I don't have all those stats built into my spreadsheet yet. For some reason the spreadsheet is slow. Building it is slow. That part I get, but when I make adjustments, I've got some really massive spreadsheets. This is not one of them, and it's just slow. But anyway, so Parsonen got the last goal of the game about 30 seconds after the Florida got their last goal. There were 20 penalties in the game, and I think 12 were in the third period. They started the game with 4 penalties with 0 time. It's crazy. There were 3 power play goals, 2 for Florida, 1 just after shorthand. Just after shorthanded as opposed to just after. Just after being if you were on a power play and you score. The just after shorthanded is if you were shorthanded and then scored just after. They did not get the first goal of the game. They tied 1 period, the third, and lost 2 periods. When tying 1 period, last year the Preds were 11-6 on the road, which is respectable. This year they are 0-3. Now, come on, I mean they're 1-3-1. So what are their stats going to be this year? When they did not get the first goal last year, they were 5-9-2 away, like 2-1. 2-1 advantage for the home team. Overall, when they didn't get it, they were 12-20-2. So it wasn't, it was just under a 2-1 advantage last year. For the Preds, it was a 3-1 advantage if they got the first goal. It hasn't really come through this year. This year they are 1-2-1 away when not getting the first goal. 3-6-1 overall when not getting it. When they lose 2 periods, last year they were 0-12. And this year they're 0-3. And that O at the beginning of that, I do not expect to change. Okay, so getting the first goal, the 5-9-1 Predators are 5-10. It's just funky that they're getting the first goal record is mirroring their record when it doesn't really it doesn't really have a lot of bearing. They're 2-3-0 when they get it, so not really indicating much of an advantage. They are 2-2 at home and 0-1 away. They were 2-0 at home, and now they're 2-2. And then when they don't get it, they're 3-6-1, 2-4 at home, and 1-2-1 away. Last year at this point, they were also 5-10 in getting the first goal overall. 4-5 when getting it, 2-3 at home, 3-2 at home, 1-3 away, and 2-5 when not, 1-2 at home and 1-3 away. So last year it really wasn't that much of an indicator at this point either. I guess you can take that away. Those of you new to the podcast, there's 2 things that kind of incented me to do the podcast or to do this research. I decided to do the research first because I was convinced, one, the announcers kept saying that the first goal was really important, and I was like, well, that's a bunch of hooey, and it turned out to be relevant. Actually, when I was about halfway through the season last year, when I started doing all that and realized that it was statistically relevant and an indicator. And the other thing was that I felt like the Preds played poorly in the second period. And I was especially at home, and I was right about that, at least. And so then I had all this data, and I said, well, I'm just going to start having a podcast to put people to sleep because I'm going to just talk about numbers the whole time. But I've added other things. I like to lure you in and then get you a good night's sleep. Okay, so winning by period. Now, this is how they fare in each period. So just taking a period in and of itself as a contest, and how did they do in that period? Well, with the win over Utah, they have now won the first period twice. Outstandingly, the first period is their worst period so far this year. I guess I should go back and take a look and see last year. I've got all of that stats. Yeah, and again, but they won the first period in those two games. In those two games, they won 4-0. They won all three periods. I was saying the other day that they needed to start playing better in the first period, and they got that power play early, so that kind of happened. Overall, in the first period, they are 2-6-7. 2-6-7, which is not very good. Well, what do you know? Just rotate the numbers. The second and third periods are the same at 6-7-2. So 2-6-7 in the first and 6-7-2 in the second and third. The second and third, you'd like to see them winning more periods. They've been losing so much. Expect that to change. But they obviously aren't losing all the games by losing them in those periods. It's the first period that they really need to bear down on. Overtime, they're 1-1. On the road, again, they've only got 5 games. So in the first period, they're 0-3-2. So, winning the first period is just not something they've been doing this season. And they better start doing that. They better start winning some first periods, or it's going to be a miserable season. In the second, they're 2-2-1, and in the third, they're 1-2-2. Overtime, they're 0-1-0. But yeah, the 2-2-1, the 1-2-2, I can live with numbers like that. The 0-3-2, they've just got to start playing better in the first period. That's just all there is to it. The winning goal, when is that scored? What period is that scored? The winning goal is the goal that is the one that exceeds the amount the opposition scored. They only have 5 games, so it's 0 in the first, 40 in the second, 40 in the third, 20 in overtime. When the Preds win, that one win was in the third period, so 100% of the time when the Preds win, the winning goal is scored in the third period. When the opposition wins, it's 0 in the first, 50 in the second, 25 and 25. Last season on the road, 41% of the time, the winning goal was scored in the second and 32 in the third. Interestingly enough, 65% of the time, when the opponent won, it was scored in the second period. 65%. Never in the first period. 0% in the first period. And then 18% in third and overtime. The Preds, more likely to score the winning goal in the third period. 42%, 25 in the second, 17% in the first. 4 in overtime and 13 in a shootout. So that is, that's what it was last year. So there you go. Goal scoring. Oh boy, goal scoring. I've got all this grid broken out, and I'm not exactly sure what to tell you. They are getting outscored in every period. I even took out the empty net goals. The Preds have 4, and their opponents have 6. And so that makes it 9-12 in the third, which is 9-12. I guess that's not too bad. 9-14 in the first, 14-17. So the three goal differential in the second, and a 3-goal differential in the third, a 5-goal differential in the first. Now they did score 2 goals in the first the other night. When they win, they are outscoring the opponents quite a bit on the road. No, it's hard to. Yeah, since there's not that many games, I don't think those numbers. They're being outscored on the road 1-6 in the first. They're tied on the road 6-6 in the second, and in the third they're being outscored 2-4. So that doesn't. And I think was it on the road? There's only been 1 empty net goal on the road. So that only 5 goals. Goals with an empty net. When the Preds pull their goaltender and they score, or the opponents pull their goaltender and they score, is 1-1. So it isn't that it's not interesting at all. The power play and special teams, the Preds do have 12 power play goals to 5 for the opponents, so they are outplaying. They are outplaying them in the special teams department. And I think, that's what I needed to write down, is, and the bulk of them are in the second period. I thought I had written that down somewhere. But yeah, the Preds in the Pred games, the special team opportunities for the Preds in the second period is as many as one more, I think, than in adding the first and the third. And then for the opponents, it's roughly the same thing. So most of the time, the special teams play is happening in the second period this season. And I know I wrote that down somewhere, but I don't see it. Well, I wrote it down somewhere. Happy Veterans Day. Let's just move on. Last year, the Preds were 7-6 in November, and 2-3 on the road in November last year. So, okay. Tonight's matchup. Tonight in Colorado is the second game against the Avalanche. The Preds won the first game 5-2 in Nashville. In that game, they did not get the first goal. So they won the game, did not get the first goal. We'll play Colorado again in about a month. And then the last game with Colorado will be in Nashville in February. Last year, we did play the Avalanche 3 times, twice in Nashville, November and early March, and in late March in Colorado. The home team did win all 3 games, so Nashville was 2-1 against the Avs. So far, that trend is carried over to this season, but hopefully that will not be true after tonight. In November, it was 4-3. In early March, it was 5-1, and late March, 4-7. The Preds were 2-1 in getting the first goal. They got it in the second and third games, so they won the second game, lost the third. In all 3 games, the losing team was scoreless in the third period, and I think that was true. I think that was true in the first game against Colorado as well. So let's take a quick look here. Scoring. Nope. Colorado did get a goal in the third period of the game this year, so that trend did not continue. But there you go. The Preds scored 1 goal in the second period of all 3 games. Dagnabbit. I should have left that open. See if they did that again. I guess that's when you plan your podcast when you're sick. The Preds got 2 goals in the second period of this last game with Colorado, so that didn't happen. But last year they scored 1 goal in the second period of all the 3 games, going 1-2. The second game was the win, the March in Nashville 5-1 victory. The Preds won 4 of the other periods and lost 3. And in the game the other day, they won 2 and tied 1. So that good on that. Colorado is in the middle of a 4-game homestand. They are 1-0. They won Saturday versus Carolina, of all teams, 6-4. So they have 1 in a row. And they are 2-4 in their last 6 games. The Preds are starting a 5-game road trip. They won their last at home, Utah, 4-0, so they are on a 1-game winning streak. And they are 2-5 in their last 7 games. So just indication that neither team has really found their mojo yet. I'm expecting to see Saros in goal for the Preds and Annunen for the Avs. Colorado is without one of their leading scorers in Ross Colton. So hopefully Ross Colton. We have a Colton Sissons. They have a Ross Colton. But they will not be playing Ross Colton. I guess that might get confusing if somebody was just yelling Colton on the ice. I guess that's why you have nicknames. Anyway, so Saros for the Preds, Annunen for the Avs. Colorado is without one of their leading scorers, Ross Colton. So, hopefully that it winds up being meaningful for the Preds, and they can come out of tonight's game with a win. That would be really nice. So, anyhow, that is the game. The game is tonight in Colorado. Nashville starting a road trip. Colorado's been home for a game, so they are nicely tucked into their beds. And they will not be sleeping well tonight. Ha ha ha. So, anyhow, go Preds. That's the matchup. Thanks for listening. I'm Preston Proctor, and you've been listening to Predators Proclivity.